Please welcome Kevin Young.
How's everyone? What a pleasure to be here. A real honor to be here for the Calhoun Writers Conference, especially in its 18th year. I thought I'd read a number of poems, but start with some newer poems. I start with some older poems. I thought I'd start with a poem called Aunties. Perhaps you have some. Aunties. There's a way a woman will not relinquish her pocketbook, even pulled on stage, or called up to the pulpit. There's a way only your auntie can make it taste right. Rice and gravy is a meal if my late great Aunt Tuda cooks it. Aunts cook like there's no tomorrow, and they're right. Too hot is how my Aunt Tootie peppers everything. Her name given by my father for seeing her smiling in her crib. There's a barrel full of rainwater beside the house that my infant father will fall into, trying to see himself, the bottom. And there's his sister, Margie, yanking him out by his hair grown long as superstition. Never mind the fly swatter they chase you round the house and into the yard with, ready to whoop the daylights out of you. That's only a threat. Aunties will fix you potato salad and save you some. Godmothers, God sends, aunts smoke like it's going out of style, and it is. Make even gold teeth look right, sighing, saying, I'll be John. With a sigh. Make way out of no way. Keep the key to the scale that weighed the cotton, the cane we raise more than our share of. If not them, then who will win heaven? Holding tight to their pocketbooks at the pearly gates, just in case. So that, like a lot of my poems, takes place in Louisiana, where my family's from. And I was writing these odes. I was writing a book called Dear Darkness, which some of you may know, which was a book really about memories of the South and thinking about what it meant to go what we called home. And that was a special place for me. And then my father died, and so the poems that were just poems of, not necessarily, they were poems of memory, and then they became sort of elegies without knowing it. But I thought I'd read one of the odes which I wrote after that, and they're really odes to everyday things. I like to call them my Grecian urns. So this is an ode to chicken. You are everything to me. Frog legs, rattlesnake, almost anything I put my mouth to reminds me of you. Folks always try getting you to act like you're someone else, nuggets or tenders, fingers you don't have. But even your unmanicured feet taste sweet. Too loud in the yard, segregated dark and light. You are like a day self-contained. Your sunset skin puckers like a kiss. Let others put on airs. Pigs graduate to pork. Bread become toast. Even beef was once just bull before it got them degrees. But even dead, you keep your name and head. You can make anything of yourself, you know, but prefer to wake me early in the cold. Fix me breakfast and dinner too. Leave me to fly for you. So this is an ode to grits. It's nice to be somewhere I don't have to explain what grits are. I usually say they're like polenta, just cheaper, you know. Same thing. Oh, it starts with a consideration of the single solitary grit. What is it? Can it be proven and seen? Ode to grits. Like y'all, or sorrows, or pig's feet, or God, your name always holds multitudes. There's never just one. Unlike moose, or deer, or death, which means both many and alone. Little Lazarus, you're the world before the flood, and what's after, our ash turning back to a body. Done wrong, you are the flavor of a communion wafer. Miss Hominy, for years I misheard your name as Harmony, and I was right. Kissing cousin to cream of wheat, godmother to oatmeal, no one owns you, much less no Quaker. Those mornings over strawberry quick, when the kettle called the cream of wheat cook to meet me for breakfast, you waited patiently to shine the whites of your million eyes on me. You must know I love you by the way I like you plain, maybe buttered up a bit. Salty, you keep me on my toes. Let me believe this once in purity. No cheese, no grape jelly, no Mrs. Butterworths. Undoctored, your cloudy stare, unlike my father's. His one eye, no bullet met that hours after he was shot through the other. I had to decide to give over to someone still alive, some girl or old man whose vision, even dead, ever the healer my father saved. Resurrected like you are daily. Welcome, stranger, pennywise prophet. You are the wet nurse of mercy. The rock water makes speak. So, I thought I'd read some new poems. I wrote a book called Brown last year, or it came out last year. And Dear Darkness was a book that I wrote really before, but then in the aftermath of my father dying, and he died very suddenly. And then I wrote a book a number of years later called Book of Hours, and that book sort of returns to the scene of that moment because I was trying to really think about what it was like in those days and hours after he died. In fact, I think I'll read one of those poems. This is a poem called Charity. Charity. So many socks. After the pair the undertaker asks for, I picture them black beneath the fold in your open casket, your toes still cold. What else to do? Body bags of old suits, shirts still pressed, long johns, the unworn, unwashed wreckage of your closet, too many coats to keep, though I will save so many. How can I give away the last of your scent? And still, Father, you have errands, errant dry cleaning to pick up. Yellow tags whose ghostly carbon tells a story where to look. One place closed for good, the tag old. One place with none of your clothes, just stares as if no one ever dies, as if you are naked somewhere, and I suppose you are. Nothing here. The last place knows exactly what I mean, brings me shirts hanging like a head, starched collars your beard had worn. One man saying, sorry, older lady in the back saying how funny you were, how you joked with her weekly. Sorry. And a fellow black man hands your clothes back for free. Don't worry. I've learned death has few kindnesses left. Such is charity, so rare and so rarely free, that on the way back to your emptying house, I weep. Then drive everything, swaying straight to goodwill, open late to live on another body and day. So after that book, I published what became Blue Laws, my selected poems, and I really then started thinking about writing a book like Brown, which was a book that thinks about the past, but also my past. It thinks about big H history and little h history. And I was interested in the ways that we moved around a lot and ended up in Kansas. We moved every 2 years or so when I was a kid. And then we ended up in Kansas. I was 10, and I kept looking at my watch like, okay, it's been 2 years, let's move. But we stayed there. And the fascinating thing about it, of course, was Kansas is a state that has this interesting history with race. Is there one that doesn't? But it was a place where I learned a lot about myself, but also about big H history. And we'll get to some of that in a minute. But I also played a lot of baseball when I was there. So I thought I'd read a couple of those poems. This is called Flame Tempered. Flame Tempered. It's from a sequence called Mercy Rule, which has one of my favorite epigraphs from it, from Ted Berrigan. It says, "The true test of a man is a bunt." Flame Tempered. I only owned one bat, my favorite, Roberto Clemente's name burnt into the wood. Length 27, I think, a yellow plank lathed off some tree in Kentucky. I swung that slugger often as I could, not knowing Clemente except what Dad had told me. He was a man who loved people, who tried doing good, so was dead. Later, when our racist neighbor wouldn't let me spin on her swing set, "You can play," she said, freckled, aiming a finger at my friend, "but he can't," calling me out. I thought of my Clemente bat, that, off-duty, Dad leaned in the front closet in case anyone dared break in. So when she went and called me an N, I called her honky back. Stung, she yelled for her daddy, who emerged no matter what she'd said, and threatened me from his short porch till I split. Some black kid who dared talk back like Clemente's bat. Even then, I knew you weren't supposed to do that. Only later did I learn Clemente means mercy. This is another poem in that sequence. Is called The Division. The Division. We played in blue jeans, unlike other teams in their tidy PAL uniforms the cops paid for. We were outlaws, our hats dark maroon shirts with our names on the back, skin black and brown and in between. We played a mean game, if only after a season of being the Bad News Bears, losing, umps even invoking the mercy rule some games. We'd wake and pray for rain or an ankle sprain. One day something gave way. The spokes they turned, and all of a sudden we won, beating teams twice our size who'd skunked us before, giving goose eggs to kids in golden sleeves and tall corn yellow socks, their new cleats aimed at our shins. We were our own Negro League. Our mascot was Reggie, chubby, goofy. Marcel the relief, and Damien, our best pitcher, his long nails stabbing the stitches, his wind-up quick change clipping the corner of the dish. I even saved one game, bases loaded, the bullpen spent or gone wild, the backup pitcher's backup. I threw slow but straight, the final strike turtling across the plate. The team hoisted me high that night, our fathers for once smiling wide. Our final game, we took first place and won the division. The sore faces the losing team wore, less shock or disbelief. That you could take than disgrace and plain rage. the mask of their catcher tossed into the Kansas dust. Anger sat there, uneasy and too easy. Even their parents hated us, claimed to have forgotten our trophies. Who cared if they couldn't take watching us celebrate that for the required final handshake, good game, good game, good game. They christened their hands with spit. Later, we'd wash up clean, and sprinkles or chocolate dip hid our ice cream, vanishing. Thanks so much. I think I'll read a poem about the Harlem Globetrotters, who are some of my heroes from childhood. My father became a doctor. Both he and my mother were the first to go to college in their families, and he became a physician, and he treated Meadowlark Lemon, who was their big player once when he came through town. And when I moved recently, I found the little signature I have from him. He was tall. I was short too, so, or you don't have to say am, but I was. The amazing thing about the Harlem Globetrotters is they always played the Washington Generals, and they always won. And I thought, they're so good. It's amazing how that happens. And so this poem is about that. It's an ode to the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals. Because they always win, because Meadowlark Lemon, because for them, double dribbling is literal. Because on your finger, your knee, toes, and elbows, the world can spin. Because the ball on a string. Because rubber bands for hands. Because the ball a banner. Because where else do generals meet defeat without blood? Because the best offense is a quick de-pantsing. Because mercy, not pity. Because the bucket of water tossed on the cries of the crowd turns like tears to confetti. This poem here is a poem for my son. I had mostly finished Brown, and it had these poems about sort of sports figures and music figures and sort of some of my poems about growing up. But I realized that my son had a childhood that was so different than mine, but also had these echoes. And so I ended up writing a number of poems about him. This one is called I Doubt It. It's as if you have died when I head into your room. Only its aging bears tucked in at night. Everything just as you left it, but quiet. To switch off the lone night light, though you are just down the street at our neighbor boy's sleepover. Turning 9 tonight, where surely you barely sleep. I bet you're up drinking apple juice the way we once downed soda or pop or root beer, RC or Atari by the liter, playing war and BS, what we codenamed I Doubt It. Though we boys were full of confidence, sleeping bags, a war zone where nobody died or got sent home, where we'd play fight and camp out and need no light to keep us company till dawn. This is how we learnt about tomorrow, when I will wander over and tug you back where you also belong, by the hand, somewhat awake, sleeping bag under your arm, empty as a chrysalis. I think I'll read this poem. It's about Mississippi. And it's specifically about Emmett Till. And, when I was writing that poem about my son, there's the beginning where it's as if he had died. But there were all these young people being shot and killed, often by police officers when I was writing this book. And I was also in Mississippi writing an oratorio about an interesting civil rights figure there named Booker. And Booker makes a quick appearance in this poem because that's why I had gone down to Mississippi, to Greenwood, where Black Power was coined as a term, and which still is a very divided town. And only 10 miles from there or less is Money, Mississippi, where Emmett Till was lynched in 1955. So we made a little pilgrimage there, and this poem came out of it. It's called Money Road. Money Road for John T. Edge. On the way to Money, Mississippi, we see little ghosts of snow falling faint as words while we try to find Robert Johnson's muddy, maybe grave. Beside Little Zion, along the highway side, this stone keeps its offerings, bud and Louisiana hot sauce, the ground giving way beneath our feet. The blues always dance cheek to cheek with the church. Booker's place back in Greenwood, still standing, its long green bar, beautiful. Friendship Church, just a holler away. Shotgun, shotgun, shotgun. Rows of colored houses, as if the same can of bright stain might cover the sins of rotting wood. Now, mostly tar paper and graffiti holding McLaren Street together. R.I.P. Bucci. The undead walk these streets seeking something we take pictures of and soon flee. The hood of a car yawns open in awe. Men's heads peer in its lion's mouth, seeking their share. For sale, squash and snap beans. The midden of oyster shells behind Lusco's, the tiny O of a bullet hole in Booker's plate glass window. Even the Salvation Army thrift store closed, bars over every door. We're on our way again, away along the Money Road, past grand houses and porte cocheres set back from the lane, crossing the bridge to find markers of what's no more there. Even the underpass bears a name. It's all too grave. The fake sharecropper homes of Tallahatchie Flats rented out along the road. Staged bottle trees chasing away nothing. The new outhouse whose crescent door foreign tourists pay extra for. Cotton planted in strict rows for show. A quiet snow globe of pain I want to shake. While the flakes fall like ash, we race the train to reach the place Emmett Till last whistled or smiled or did nothing. Money more a crossroads than the crossroads be. Its gnarled tree, the Bryant store facing the tracks now turned the color of earth, tumbling down slow as the snow, white and insistent as the woman who sent word of that uppity boy. Her men who yanked you out your uncle's home into the yard, into oblivion, into this store abutting the Money Gin Co., whose sign, worn away, now reads un or sin, I swear, whose giant gin fans, like those lashed and anchored to your beaten body, still turn. Shot, dumped, dredged, your face not even a mask, a marred, unspared, sightless stump. All your mother insists we must see to know what they did to my baby. The true Tallahatchie, twisting south, the Delta death's second cousin once removed. You down only for the summer to leave the stifling city where later you will be waked, displayed, defiant, a dark glass. There are things that cannot be seen, but must be. Buried, barely, this place no one can keep. yet how to kill a ghost. The fog of our outdoor talk, we breathe, we grieve, we drink our tidy drinks. I think now winter will out. The snow bless and kiss this cursed earth. Or is it cussed? I don't yet know. Let the cold keep still your bones. Thank you. Just going to read a few more. Doing all right? So I think I'll read from that oratorio I mentioned. I don't often read from it. It's sort of meant to be sung, but so are poems in a way. I think a lot about the ways that poems originally had that connection to song. The lyric poem was a poem to accompany the lyre, the instrument. And I think that quality is something that I keep returning to in poems, that song-like quality. But of course, in a poem, the music is within the words. So I think I'll read just a couple from this. A little bit about Booker Wright. He was a waiter and a barkeep. He owned a place called Booker's Place in Greenwood, and right on the edge of town, edge of the tracks, I should say, that divided the black side and white side of town, which very much still is the case, is a place called Lusco's, which I mentioned in that other poem. And Lusco's was where he was a waiter. And while he was there, NBC came in the 60s, this is 66, and did a documentary on the South, and specifically on Greenwood. And he enacted just by telling, and you can look on YouTube and see him do this, he just tells in about 3 minutes sort of what his customers say to him. And by doing that, he sort of broke a code. And with that, he was beaten by a cop, he was put in the hospital, he was fired from Lusco's, and he then became a kind of underground civil rights hero for the town. Many of the sort of juke joints and other places around there have been torn down, but Booker's Place has stayed not as a juke joint, but as a meeting hall for the Friendship Church that's nearby there. And his voice resonates across time. And so my job in this poem was to kind of capture his voice, but also give you a sense of his inner life. So I'll read just a few of this poem called Repast. This is called Booker's Place. It's the haze that hurts, sometimes far worse than when the sun spits its rays all over your face. Them days you brown and redden, the work can be like to kill you. So a man need a place to go inside his head and walk around and rest. There's a juke joint of the soul, somewhere you can have yourself something cold or brown burning water. We used to get ice in fresh, cut from giant blocks, sawdust, clean glasses, and good food. I kept the bar sparkling, shiny as the teeth of the couples on calendars behind me, staring into each other's eyes. Budweiser in cans, knee-high, drink Coca-Cola, bottled up. This was my place, a green room, a somewhere you could twist, maybe spin a partner on the dance floor, or just set a spell and tap your foot, mine, taking it all in. We never let anyone carry on too long and made sure they carried themselves home safe beside the tracks that also kept their crosses clanging. That train red and I, then blue, bearing down on you. It's called Death's Dictionary. Death's Dictionary. A shack made of ribs, a house made of out, a car made of rust, a smile made of doubt, a house made of fire, a magician's gesture, of cards, of the Lord as preacher pats his brow, a joint made of juke, a twist, a night away, a wood made of green, of blood, the kerchief now a bandage, a place in the sun, a house made of railroad, a shack of shotgun, thank you. A glossary of uppity. For please read forget you. For son, read none. For love, read money. For money, read. For smile, read bless your heart. For uppity, read sedity. For sedity, read dicty. For dicty, hinkty. For pleasure, for unknowing, for forgetting, read mystery. For smile, read speak. For hush, read shush. Read shut up. Read don't you dare. For dare, read sure. For speak up, read speak out. For the future, say now. For my children, for ever. Thy trumpet tongue, thy work never done. For thee, read we. I'll just read two more. This poem is called Pining, the definition. So it's about pining like wanting, desiring, pining for something, but also there's just a lot of pine trees in it. Pining, a definition. Looked like last night, the light hardly wanted to leave, but hung round in the pines for what seemed hours after the sun said its goodbyes. Sometimes can get hard to just go, you know. We stand around talking, not noticing the dark rising up around our feet. Stand up and maybe stretch and see ourselves home. We be a gas station dog waiting for something to fall so we can eat a while and sleep. When morning decides to wake, maybe just this once it'll be late and we can join the table already set like fate, welcomed by the knives, and just from the scent of something someone we love cooked for us, feel fed. And I'll end with this poem called Hive. Then I think we'll have some questions. Is that all right with you all? So this poem, Hive, is a poem that I almost took it out of this book. I don't know why, in retrospect, but it's a poem I think that thinks about this boy in a bigger way. It's kind of a memory and also a fable. And it's a way of trying to think about, the book used to end with Emmett Till with that Money Road poem, but having his bones end just couldn't work for me. So it ends with this poem called Hive, and thank you all for having me. Hive. The honeybee's exile is almost complete. You can carry them from hive to hive, the child thought, and that is what he tried, walking with them thronging between his pressed palms. Let him be right. Let the gods look away as always. Let this boy, who carries the entire actual whirring world in his calm, unwashed hands, barely walking, bear us all there, buzzing, unstung. Thank you.